Morning, and welcome to the informational meeting, which I'm glad to see so many people here. Good morning, commissioners and staff. It's Thursday, June the 4th, and I'll call this meeting to order. Commissioner Shell will lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Those who would like to join me. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you, Father, in a time that's bringing a lot of discourse and confusion across this nation. A lot of things are happening, Father, that need to be addressed. But we come to you this morning to conduct the business of the people of Davidson County. We call upon your strength, your wisdom, and your guidance to help us, Father, make the proper decisions that would enhance and improve the life of all of our citizens. We ask for your strength, your wisdom, and your guidance across this nation, Father. We pray for the leaders of our country and for each city and county that's embedded within the confines of the United States of America, that which you have blessed us with. We thank you, Father. Our trust is in you and not in the flesh. For it's in his precious name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners McClure and Yates cannot be with us this morning. Do I have a motion to excuse?
Motion excused.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, verbally?
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, we can use clickers this morning.
It's good to look out and see our fellow staff and visitors today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here as we discuss the budget this morning. I hope you've been well, and we care about you. We appreciate you and your interest in what we are planning to talk about today. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, are there any changes for the agenda? May I have a motion to
approve the agenda.
adopt the agenda? I've got a motion. Second.
With the clickers, ma'am.
Okay, let's cast your vote. Might have to learn how to do this again.
Commissioner Scott, could I have your vote, please?
I get to vote twice. Come through that time?
It says, one more time. Are you hitting the confirm button after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm seeing it move for some reason. It's not taking. Can I take it that it's a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll put it in. All of the votes are in. And yes, all the votes are in. And that motion carries by a vote of 5-0.
Items for discussion today. First of all, we have a presentation about DC Connect. Reed Thornburg will lead this off. Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, Chairman, Commissioners, County staff, good to see you all again in person. Seems like it's been forever. So it's good to see you. So I just wanted to take the opportunity, Lieutenant Wayne Meads, Sandy Motley, who's not with us this morning, but Sandy has been an integral part of wanting to put together an opportunity to address homelessness, substance use, as well as post-incarceration opportunities for individuals in our community. It's been a long time coming, I think, a lot of planning, a lot of folks coming together with open hearts and open minds, wanting to serve populations that oftentimes get overlooked. People make assumptions that they have their needs met somewhere. Where? It just depends here and there. But certainly the project that DC Connect has taken on and to be able to bring together in one location an opportunity for individuals to have their needs met, both physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental. So I'll let Wayne talk about the effort.
Thank you, Reed. Thank you guys for having us here today. This is a privilege. I do appreciate it. What kind of, just for clarity, what kind of time?
Quickly.
About 10 minutes.
Quickly? Okay. All right, I'll do that. I apologize. I haven't been this nervous since I was in front of my high school principal. So.
Sir, I missed who you were. Would you please tell me who you are again?
I'm Lieutenant Wayne Mees. I'm the Corps Officer and Director for the Salvation Army of all of Davidson County.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. What I wanted to present to you today was not to try to pitch or sell you an idea, but better yet to share with you a countywide project that is already becoming in existence. Let me give you a little bit of background of how this came about, because I think it's imperative to know how this is forming and who all the players were that were involved. Barriers to Access to Care Committee, which was led by Sandy Motley and Medical Ministries, has existed for many years as an opportunity for community leaders to work together on issues related to mental health, substance abuse, transportation, and access to health. Most importantly, Davidson Medical Ministries, on behalf of a B2A2C, wrote a grant to the Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust to write a strategic plan around the development of a recovery-oriented system of care related to mental health and substance abuse. During the same time, the mayor of Lexington, with the help of the Salvation Army and Crisis Ministries, had called a group of individuals and community leaders together to address the homelessness situation, which concluded a relocation of the homeless shelter. Goodwill Career Connection was working with Project Reentry and the post-incarceration population, which is also connected with the Salvation Army, because we would desperately like to be able to do transitional living for people that are coming out of prison in order to give them a better chance at society without having to worry about reoffending. Ultimately, we were all working on similar projects at the same time, and what ended up happening was, from this, everybody had a little aha moment. We need to be putting all these resources together to have a one-stop shop facility in order for people to be able to come to one place, find the resource that they need, whether it be mental health, drug abuse, food, shelter, domestic violence for women and children, and the list does go on a little bit, and to be able to come to one spot versus having to go all over the county due to the fact that we do have a transportation issue in Davidson County of getting from one city to another to contact Welcome, Denton, Walburg, Thomasville, Lexington, to be able to incorporate all those committees and to be able to tie it in together. What ended up happening with all that is that we started meeting, all these different community agencies started meeting together. Some of you may have been aware of this and heard about it because it's been talked about a lot. This has been for a year and a half that over 35 different agencies have come together to be part of this task force in order for this to happen. Now, I'm not sure about you, but it's been a long time since I've seen 35 different agencies with a like mind stick together on anything. And to be able to push forward and really want to see this happen. From that, the Salvation Army did a mission planning study for the county to make sure that this could take place, that it was something that the county needed. So we had an outside voice. They declared that if partner agencies would come together, this would work perfectly. Not one entity should take this to claim to it and try to do it, but everybody together bringing their resources together. From that, the committee meetings got so big that we couldn't hold them at town hall anymore, and we started to hold them in our chapel at the Salvation Army because it was over 50 people attending every single month to start a strategic plan, which you have in front of you, which is the final product that Ernie Tompkins led along with the mayor from the Community Solutions meeting, trying to get together people on governance committees, strategic planning committees, to be able to do governance, get the bylaws written together, get the lawyers that were in place, do the articles of incorporation, which have passed, and we are now have a license for it to be a 501c3. And the name came up to be called DC Connect, which is currently where we are at right now. One of the things from starting all this is that these agencies and 100 individuals that have come together has now grown and been able to receive enough support that we are at a stage now where we need to be able to bring on the missing links to be able to support this as of right now. The property adjacent to the Salvation Army is a proposed site to where this new facility could be built. From the strategic plan, we are now going into what's known as the feasibility study. And from that feasibility study, the Salvation Army is bringing on architects that they have used across the nation. DC Connect has agreed to them being able to draw up these plans. We are in phase 2 of that right now. They've already met with us, and all the individuals that you see on those strategic plans, from whether it be mental health, whether it be you're looking at Daymark, you're looking at Habitat for Humanity, social services, probation, prisons. The North Carolina Department of Corrections has said if this is launched, they will gladly have a line item for funding for all transitional inmates coming out of prison, and that they will support and also supply the needs necessary in order for this to take off. Attorneys Phyllis Penry filed the articles of incorporation for us currently right now. John Frank, the former CEO of Lexington Medical Center, retired executive with Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust, accepted the board chair role. We now have a elected board committee right now with about 25 members who have agreed to take on these positions. Officers were elected and was formed. The previous committee members were asked to continue in their various committee assignments that you see in that proposal right there. DC First Hope, which was formerly Crisis Ministries, but they are rebranding and have a new name now, purchased the adjacent lot to the Salvation Army for the purpose of relocating the homeless shelter and being a part of a single entity. They would not necessarily have ownership of the homeless shelter. DC Connect would have a shelter facility for Crisis Ministries to move their program over and to use this facility. And how that would happen as far as lease agreements and things like that would take place. But DC Connect, which is a collaboration of everybody, is a one entity that would have ownership of the new homeless shelter to be relocated from downtown. From that, grant funding has been put out there. Funding has become available. It is moving so fast that it is actually unbelievable, and I wish I had a little bit more time to share with you everything that's going on. My goal in here today was not to sell you on the idea about maybe or maybe not being part of this, but it was to give you a clear understanding that this is something that you may want to be definitely a part of, with so many acting participants that are in place right now. In fact, the county has already reaped the benefit of this program being launched, and I'll tell you how. 315 8th Avenue is a lot that is sitting over there that has got back taxes on the amount of $15,000 that the county is going to put up for auction in July. We have stepped in, and one of our board members has stepped in and has agreed to pay off the $15,000 lien that is on that property rather it go into auction. Therefore, this will be off the county's hands as well. Every entity that has participated in this, somehow or another, there's a little bit of a divine intervention that's saying this thing needs to move forward. We're now going into a year and a half. The mayor, as well as some others, as soon as this feasibility study is done, they have the renderings, the drawings, the architects, the design and scale of the building to move forward. The property is zoned correctly for having this type of facility there. The mayor's agreed to move forward with a capital campaign to launch this and to be able to have this building placed at this location right behind 314 9th Avenue. With that being said, we invite the county to be part of the next meeting that we're going to have, where the architects and the design team is going to be with the governance committee for DC Connects, which will be on June the 10th at 10 a.m. at our chapel, to be able to see how possibly you can be a part of this, because ultimately we're going to need everybody's support. The greatest support that we have, and what makes this wonderful, is the fact that in this county you have over 400 registered churches in Davidson County alone. And from those churches on the outside, such as Welcome, Wahlberg, and these other communities, they have agreed to take on this type of support so that nobody's duplicating services anymore, that their funds can be used to be able to support something like this. You're looking at a proposed budget for a building and a facility like this of about probably $1.8 to $2 million a year. 80% of that can be funded through the support of our local churches if everybody was to get together and be part of a one intricate plan. We will be on the North NC 360 portal, which will be able to track people who are needing help, who are needing assistance. The North Carolina Department of Corrections thinks it is an incredible idea, and as Nicole from Raleigh, I can't remember her last name, but has readily said, We will give you the people, we will give you the support, send us the bill to do transitional living. You have, people together coming on for the domestic violence end of it. We will be handling all the feeding programs, for the homeless shelter, as well as chapel services to be able to, offer to anybody coming to this shelter. We will cover the transportation needs when somebody is outside of the county in the beginning to be able to pick them up, bring them to these services, where people like Daymark and others can come to this one-stop hub, meet with these individual clients without the clients having to drive all over the county. And ultimately, all the thing they do is they just give up. They just don't look for service. And from there, the escalation of crime or whatever begins to happen. It is a remarkable collaboration. I can't, again, think of anything more exciting, nor have I seen anything last this long as what we're having right here. Cardinal Innovations is all with us, reading his company he works for as well. Jane Murphy with Novant Health, White Medical, Thomasville. I mean, everybody is behind this thing 100%. And I know I haven't covered everything, but I hope that what I've described to you today gives you an impression of something that you really, really want to be a part of. The community can support it without having to get too much federal support, too much federal input put on it, because this is going to have a spiritual basis behind it as well. There'll be church, there'll be AA meetings, there'll be all kinds of recovery programs that are going on, job placements. The biggest transitional living facility probably around, and this will be a model for other counties to actually follow once it's up and running. So, guys, I thank you for your time. I hope I have covered everything. I could go on for hours, but we don't have that today. And if you got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, both of us.
When looking at this, government, madam,
Yes, sir.
when looking at this team here, where's your judges? I've been saying for the last 5 years, we need to do exactly what you're doing, and that is bring everything under one umbrella. Because there's so many arms out here. Nobody, the right hand don't know what the left hand's doing. So we talk about providing mental health care and addiction problems, and the right hand don't know what the left hand's doing.
Yes.
So we walk out on the front porch, and with all the money we're spending, I'm talking about across the country, not just Davidson County, there's no effect. Things are getting worse, not better. What you're doing, I applaud, because it's what I've been saying needs to be done for the last 5 years. Before I ever came on the commissioner's board, I was saying that. But where are your judges on here?
What do you mean by you say judges?
Well, if you're going to have a viable program, you better have the court system on your as part of your team. So where are they in this group here?
Talking about our active current county judges?
The governor's work team members.
Governor's work team members,
Yeah.
Right now we're looking at myself, Reed, Sandy Motley.
I'm talking about the judges from the court systems.
I've got April Wood on our board who is part of this.
Okay, because I don't see her name on here. That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Is, do we have somebody from the court system?
We do have her alongside us, as well as the attorney that's on board with us, trying to get all the articles of incorporation into place as we speak right now.
Okay.
The articles of incorporation went through really quick. It's now becoming, getting our federal ID number. It takes a little bit of time, but they're going to get it through.
Yeah. Well, I applaud what you're doing, because I think that's been needed for years.
It's going to work. It's going to work.
Could you repeat the date and time of this next meeting?
It's going to be June 10th. It's going to be next week. It's going to begin at 10 a.m. at our chapel, which is 314 West 9th Avenue, which you'll be able to see the lot that this will be on as well. The architects will be there. If there is any idea, as well as the building committee is going to be there, of what even the county thinks we need, like your statements that you just made, this is what needs to be in the design of this building. We don't want to miss out. We need you there. Right now, they've given us over a 35,000 square foot building. They've given us a proposal of what so far everybody has said they need through the first round of interviews. We come back, we chop it up, we look at this, we get it together, and we get an overall price, and we're looking at probably around a $5 million building to be put up. But we want to make sure everybody has whether it's an office space, a resource. We're using the NC360 portal to track all this. That's free for all of North Carolina, to be able to track, monitor, and make sure we're not duplicating services anymore. The money's going to the right place. I said it before, and I'll say it again. It sounds a little bit bad, but through our work and our process, nobody in Davidson County is going hungry. And that's because every church is feeding, we're feeding, they're feeding, giving away clothes, and everything is being duplicated. Landfills are getting filled up with clothes that are, when people leave homes, it's just and nobody knows what, everybody's doing.
That's right.
This is a way to monitor that. And with these players that you see on board for a year and a half, sticking with this, and now we are where we're at. We're really at a point where we can't turn back now. It's too much money invested. Davidson Medical Ministries did an $80,000 grant to put behind this. We put behind $25,000 of our own money to do the mission planning study. Right there, the strategic plan right there, that wasn't cheap at all. Now we're going into the feasibility study, which is $22,000 to get the architects and design. And that's basically a donation. Most architects are about $60,000 to do a complete rendering of a brand new facility. And then we also have a construction crew out of Alabama on board ready to build a facility such as this one.
Is the new proposed location behind where your office is now?
It is.
That's right down below where that new skate park is.
Okay.
Right there, and you below the armory there.
Okay.
It's right there. You have Smith Trim woodwork right there. It's that, and then that connects to that adjacent property, which is right behind that. So you're looking at close to an acre of land for this to be able to be built on. Have 2 entry points to this place, and as well as the bus system is going to lengthen the pickups to come down there and to be able to pick these guys up. There's a lot of investment, private investment. There's no return on any of these investments, whether it be man hours, which is in the hundreds to put this together, whether it be financial, there are no returns other than moving forward. So we ask you today to please be that one of those missing links that we continue to build on. We didn't come to you in the first week asking for assistance. We came a year and a half later because we had something to show to you that this is going to work. This is something we need to stand behind. And then hopefully the state will follow. We'll be able to get support, funding, the church is on board, and then we'll be able to see, at the end of the day, it just makes business sense for people that are coming out of prison to have a program to go to so they don't reoffend. The police have less work. Business organizations and homeowners have to less worry about people breaking into homes. Women and children can actually get back into society and back on their feet without giving up. The opioid addiction is horrendous around this area and needs help, and we have the resources to do it.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I hear all these programs, and that is absolutely phenomenal. But how many beds are you looking at in such a facility to encompass all these programs? Because you're going to need a lot of beds, and I know the Genesis House, they're totally separate from so how are y'all getting your mind around all that?
The architects did an interview with Crisis Ministries on their current problems and how it needs to be fixed. For the men's side of their facility, if we had 65 beds for men, that would cover the need in Davidson County. If we did a women's and children facility like the Genesis House over there, you're looking at another 35 to 40 additional beds for that facility right there. That is in the architect rough drawings right now for them. We have a place for veterans to come in and have a private facility for veterans. We have a private place for women and children. That's going to be in the design team. A private place for transitional living when people are coming out of prison. That is also in the design as well, a 10-bed for transitional living. The women and children is a main priority, but our biggest thing is to be able to get them in, find out their need, and to have an exit plan of where to go, where to get a resource, whether it be funds, material items, and how we can get them there. And then on top of that, Medical Ministries is also looking at a medical bus to be able to go around the different cities. Thomasville right now is looking at a satellite facility to start up that connects with DC Connect, that is part of the program as well. The churches out in the Welcome area and Denton area are also on board. They've been at these meetings, so that's part of the 35,000 square feet. You're looking at 65 men would cover it. We also are interested in only being able to assist right now with people in the Davidson County zip codes. If it's somebody from out of town, they are proposing 3 days, we'll get you this service and we'll get you where you need to go. But this is a Davidson County project that will actually spread out and run its arms into the other communities that have satellite facilities and make this really work. And behind that, and this is what makes me proud, it's a Christian-based organization, and it's got Lord Jesus Christ written all over it. So that, I'm all for, and that gets my hurrah.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any questions?
Need to talk to you more on that.
Well, guys, June 10th, please, all the answers can be answered. They'll all be there. Committee members, chairman members, architects, everything. That is the one day to get this done before this goes into design. Mayor Clark would like to have a ribbon cutting done on December of 2021, no later. They want to set flags by the end of the year, beginning early of next year. That's the vision. That's what they see wanting to happen, and we need you to help us do that and be part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. The next item on our agenda is the CRF funding. I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think at your places, you've got a copy of an agenda item before you, this one here with the colorful table on the front of it.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we talked about submitting the plan to the state for the $2.9 million. We have done so. I've received notification back from them that we're going to receive the funds possibly the end of this week, definitely by next. What you've got in front of you here is an actual budget amendment to go ahead and set part of this money in motion. So if you'll look at the table there, you'll see with your eyes, we'll go ahead and appropriate these funds. We've gotten guidance from the Treasury's office that we need to do they would prefer us to do a special revenue fund. That's just a fancy way of saying keep track of the money. So we're going to isolate it off to itself, but even within isolating it off to itself, we're going to do a little more isolation. So if you look down at the bottom there, you've got a variety of line items proposed. Some of that is booking all of the overtime from the past that we talked about that already has occurred. We'll journal entry those things over to this fund, get it out of the general fund, which helps the general fund, sick time, those kinds of things. You've got the business assistance and emergency assistance programs we're proposing go ahead and appropriate funds for because we'd like to get started as soon as possible, particularly with the business one. I'd like to get it kind of up and running. And then you've got the municipalities. We've got agreements for all of the municipalities ready to go, and we will get them those agreements and get them signed upon approval today. Have those municipalities sign them, get them back to us. The schools are coming next. We've got funding, as you saw in the last board meeting related to that in the college. I'll have MOUs for those as well. I don't plan on turning that loose until July 1, so I'll be a little bit behind this. But if you look at the bottom there of that table, so you want to set that in motion now, if okay with the board, and it leaves that miscellaneous line I colored in gray there. So basically half the money would go out the door this morning, and then you leave the other half there. Now remember, in that other half, we've got a variety of other things that we may end up doing, we may not, I don't know. One part of this component on the salary sets in motion the tracing piece for Lillian. It allows the school nurses who only work 10 months now to work 12, and we charge that last 20% to these funds. The tracing is ongoing, has been ongoing for some time, but instead now of charging it to county, we charge it to CRF. We're not going to move on the testing just yet until I get a little more guidance from Lillian. She's working with the state to get kind of feedback from them. So we're going to put, I won't say a halt, but we'll just suspend that idea just for a minute. Those funds sit down in that gray area. Remember, we have funds built in for, we mentioned homeless. We've got funds built in case we have to deal with an issue such as that, or deep clean the jail, or deal with other things going on at the courthouse. So as we open back up, so all of those funds sit in that gray area. And as we bring it forward, we'll put those on the agenda items and get them to you all as we start to move on them one by one. They could come at a variety of different times. So you all will see them as they come out of that. They would be on the agenda item. It would come out of the gray area and move to the top until all the funds are gone, obviously, as you can see, and you're still at 2.9. That way we know all the funds are going. We begin tracking mode of this thing. But that's all I have, unless y'all got any questions. What I'd like to have happen is, if you look at the recommendations, is approve letting the school nurses go ahead and be charged this money and continue with the tracing efforts, because we're going to do the tracing probably no matter what, as they have already started. It's just charging them appropriately to this money. Let's go ahead and establish this special revenue fund, get these funds appropriated, and then leave the gray area, leave about half of it, as you can see with your eyes. And then we've got the MOUs. I don't think they may be attached to the agenda item. I didn't put them in this little packet. We're going to go ahead and approve the MOUs so we can get them signed by Madam Chairwoman and get them to the municipalities.
I have one question. Lillian, last Friday had a testing clinic. Do you know how that went? I know that she had, like 2 people had signed up for it.
Lillian, are you here? Here we go.
Yeah. How many people showed up at your clinic Friday?
We tested 44. Would you have any about me? Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry. We tested 44. We had a little over 30 pre-registered. Not everyone showed up, and we did do some walk-ups or drive-ups.
Okay. I was just curious. I know last week it was, 2 or 4 people?
Yes, sir. They trickled in.
Yeah. I kind of suspected that, and when Casey brought it up about testing, and I happen to think this week at my doctor's office, right next to it is one of the, prime care.
Oh, yeah.
They had people wrapped around the block waiting to get up there, so I was just curious.
It's very interesting because my understanding is those, facilities charge like a copay or you have to pay a visit. Ours was free and we still didn't get a lot of people, so.
Oh, they had 70 cars out there.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy. I laughed at them as I went back home.
One caveat on the business program real quick, remember it's up to $5,000, so you don't have to take it all if you don't need it. You know, if you just need $500, that's fine. One of the other things we talked about doing is go ahead, upon approval this morning of the funds, we'll market it a little bit on Facebook. I may even get some of you all to help me. I don't know how, I hadn't thought through that in my head yet, but we'll give us a little time. Plan to turn it maybe loose on the 15th. I just picked the middle of the month, nice round day. But instead of running it for a month as we kind of proposed, I think maybe what I'd like to do is run it just a couple weeks right before 4th of July. People go on vacation, they tend to forget about things, but that also allows us in our office, we don't know what we're in for. Let's control it just a little bit, release the applications, get them in, they'll all be time-stamped, so we'll know who's first come, first served, and then stop the applications right there at that 2-week period, so I can see how many we got. And then we can go through them, contact the people, work through the options. It should be relatively simple because, again, we're pretty much listing on the website what's eligible. But we'll work with them, and then hopefully we can start cutting checks shortly thereafter to get them their funds because, it's reimbursable. Either you already bought it or you're going to buy it. But my point in that is then we can come back and report to you all, you know, if the program was a great success, we had this much go out the door, or, you know, we didn't have that much and we can reevaluate what we need to do. I don't want to leave it just open-ended, if that makes sense, for an extended period of time because I don't want to keep having to chase. It could be unruly is where I'm going with this. If we can open it, if it's a great success, we zip on through the first round, nothing wrong with us opening it again and doing round 2.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion and a second to approve the CRF funding allocations as presented by Mr. Smith?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion we accept this.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please cast your vote.
Try this again.
Yes, is that piece there for the contribution to the Life Center? Are we now doing what PTRC normally does, or?
Yes, I'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
Okay. That's the budget part, separate item.
Okay.
That motion carries five in favor.
Keith, I do have one quick question, because I understand the funds are probably gonna come out as miscellaneous fund.
Mm-hmm.
The new order by Judge Class came down from.
I've already
DC.
done some of that stuff, so I'm gonna.
Are you requiring any information from them as far as what courtrooms will be open?
Yeah, I mean, we can put some of that with the feds, but I got exactly what we bought for them as far as sanitizer and some masks, and I did some signage, and also the charging of the cleaners. So I'm just gonna journal entry that over to these funds.
So we don't wanna be stocking courtrooms that are empty.
No, right.
Yeah.
But the little bit that I spent already in the budget that we're living off of now, I'm gonna move it as part of this and just move it on over. And then right now, I think we're okay. I talked to Judge Michaels last night. I think they're pleased with our response, and there's no more to do right this minute. They zipped through about 50-some masks yesterday or the last 2 days they opened. They've been careful to give them out to, I say, ration them a little bit. You know what I mean? Give them the courtroom staff as top priority, people that's got to be dealing right in the area of the courtroom area. But we'll see how the masks come and go. I've got more if needed, but I think they're doing a good job of that. And the commercial sanitizing machines are on their way. I was hoping they'd been here yesterday. Cross my fingers to be here Friday. And I'll put a couple up there, and I think I'll put one at Thomasville. And so I think that'll last them for a while, get them going, and I don't anticipate any more issues at the moment.
I'd like to speak on, just behalf of myself, thanking, our judges and the ability that the clerk of court and the judge staff are working with us. I know there's been some issues in other counties where they've kind of held the county in contempt
on cleaning and doing stuff like that, and that's just nonsense. I'm glad that we have a working relationship with all of our members in the court system, and that's a testament to the board and the leadership we have. So just wanted to put that out on the record.
I think the judges are very pleased, and I think they understand that you all were at 30,000 foot behind it all. So, I mean, you're right, the relationship is a two-way street, and it works really well. I went there and met with them, with the sheriff, DA. We all got in a room and kind of worked through last week the game plan. Lillian showed up to give them some updates on the virus and how to handle certain things, and they were very appreciative. Very good game plan, so.
Thank you. No further questions. Let's move on to the work session for the budget. Mr. Smith?
One more quick thing on the CRF. As we get going with the business and the emergency assistance, since the funds are appropriated, nothing else the board's got to do, but we'll be giving out updates as we get going. So I'll just do those via email if that's okay with you all. We can do something formally in a meeting at some point in time, but I'll just let you know when we get started, this how many business we got going and this how much funds are left, et cetera. And I'll get Trish to help us do the same thing with the emergency assistance.
Thank you.
On the budget side, so at the last meeting, we did the public hearing for the budget. 2 meetings ago, you got it presented to you, the proposed budget. Had the public hearing last meeting. What we've got this morning is our annual work session on the budget, where you all feel free to ask any questions. I do got this sheet here that Mr. Toole already alluded to. I just want to walk through real quick. Every year I end up with some changes, some things I find as I turn it loose that I need to correct. So let me just walk through those real quick on this colorful Carolina blue sheet. Found we got a better deal on the shelving at the libraries as we're doing the renovations up here at Lexington, so I was able to reduce funds, as you can see. If you look on the left-hand side in that Carolina blue column, on the sheriff's side, I'm entering into a new contract for laundry. The old vendor, we bought in bulk the suits and had some issues with the vendors and adhering to state regulations in terms of them getting changed out. We're going to go a new vendor who we rent them from and adheres to state law in terms of we don't get them back with bodily fluids on them or, blood and things like that. So a little bit more on that contract than we normally have done. So anyway, we moved those funds from the library basically over to here to help us out with that. Lillian got some additional COVID-19 specifically for WIC. So we're going to appropriate those funds, no county dollars involved. Found some issues. Tim Manus in our office found them for me. I accidentally left some pay raise dollars in public health. Those are going to be removed, obviously, for now because we've suspended that. We're going to move the Life Center funding out, as Mr. Trull just alluded to, because, yes, the PTRC folks are going to handle that now. So that funds come out of the budget. Again, no county dollars. It's just the revenue and the expenses both come out. You get a little adjustment in workers' comp because you're making an adjustment to public health salaries, very slight. You got a little bit of adjustment there in the insurance fund. Again, not a big deal. I made the garage fund match all the mileage charges to the departments, again to $150, not a drastic change. If you flip over on the back side of that page, we got a new revised total from the state on 911 funds, very slight, so I made that adjustment. And then the sewer fund, we got notified from Winston-Salem there will be no rate changes this year. We had anticipated 5% like we usually do, nothing. So it's going to hold flat, so we put it back to where it was. All in all, the budget goes down some more if you look with your eyes to the right, another $114,000. And if you look right beside that, the appropriate fund balance column, the county money only moves $2,500. So basically back to where we started in terms of county money. That's all the changes I have. What you've got behind that is just the things that we end up including. You see a summary at a high level here of what that looks like, these changes in terms of all funds in the general fund if you want to see with your eyes. The large changes, again, we're still at a $2 million reduction right now, basically. And then I've got a revised ordinance that matches all these numbers behind that and that water and sewer rates that, again, with no change because they didn't make any moves. So that's all I have in terms of changes to the from a staff level. If you all have any issues you would like to address or talk about.
Madam Clerk, may
Yes, sir.
I go over transportation.
Mm-hmm.
Did we not receive a while back that part was cut in the Lexington route?
When the gentleman showed up to the work session, there was a discussion about the Lexington route and going back to the, trying the 52 route way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably some discussion that they're still having. I haven't heard word back from Scott that there's been any cuts just yet. I touched base with him on that.
Have we not increased our own Davidson County transportation routes?
Yeah, the ridership's up, yeah.
So if they, and I think they have eliminated the Lexington route, why aren't we taking the fund, cutting their funds? That $130,000 and if anything, giving it to our own transportation.
I think it's they were going to maybe eliminate a route and then move it to try a different route, try the 52 route one more time. So the conversation was, for now, let that happen. If it doesn't work, where there's no ridership, I do anticipate a day where they may actually show up, as Mr. Trull and I met with Scott. They may actually just want to give us back the $130,000 and we add it more to our transportation or do something with it. I think that's probably coming. That's why I had Scott come to the retreat. If they've stopped that route, they want to go back and try the 52. And so I'm good with them trying it to see if they can get it.
I just hadn't heard that they had re-added that route, because I thought the place over there on 64 they don't even use anymore.
And like I said, I think the goal was to cut one perhaps, and I didn't catch wind whether they did or they didn't. I'll touch base with Scott, but move those funds to trying 52 one more time. You know, they did it a long time ago, and there wasn't a ridership, and so they want to try it again, see if they can get it kind of going. If they can't, as Mr. Trull and I met with Scott and kind of told us, look, ultimately one day, if they can't make it work, they're probably just going to come to us and say, here's the funds, what would you need to do whatever you need to do. That's my sense, if Mr. Trull wants to share anything else.
Well, several things. Start off with now the park and ride lot on 64.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sale. They don't use that anymore. They've cut out the routes now as of August, sometime in August. I don't remember the exact date in August. The only route in Davidson County will be route number 9. Route number 9 will start at the Tonopah Park and Ride lot and go to High Point. That's it. It doesn't come to Lexington at all. It's because we don't have any ridership. Back to the $133,000, that's not our money. We gave them permission to go through the state, and they get that off of commissions or the taxes off of rental vehicles. That $133 comes from rental vehicles. So it's not any of our money. The only way we're going to be able to get that $133,000 would be, as Casey said, for part to revert it over to us to use for sidewalks, transportation, anything relating to transportation. So we could use it that way. But
Michelle, if you remember from the retreat, and I'm trying to go back to the slides, we talked, Scott came, and then we kind of talked about that. Of course, it's $120,662 to be exact. And then we talked about some options where Park can redirect the funds to the 52 route and try that. The park and ride, from the park and ride in Thomasville to High Point and then to Greensboro. Mm-hmm. Or the county can take the 120 and run a route ourselves, as Richard said, from 52 down to the Welcome Business Park to Egger. That's a possibility. And get our bus shelters in place too.
But I think the only question I would have is the rental tax.
Mm-hmm.
Does it designate those funds to go to park? It designates it to go to transportation. Am I incorrect on that?
I think this board, and Chuck maybe would have helped him with this, so didn't this board take action to give it to,
Yes.
at some point in time years ago?
Yeah, but it's not a state mandate that it goes to park. It's our decision as to how we appropriate those
I
dollars
don't
out
know.
as
I'd
far
have
as
to
it's used
check.
for
I
transportation.
think you're right, but I don't know.
we gave Park permission to tax the rental properties. The money don't come through here.
So why is it in our budget then?
Well, it flows through us, so we have to give it to them to do to use.
The board has to say over the funding.
Right. I have a feeling that the answer is going to be
100%.
that you all allow them the ability to use it.
But anyway, it's our decision is the point I'm trying to make.
That's correct.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. I don't want to go out on a limb and say 100%. We'll have to double check all that, but I think so. But that some board years ago gave them permission to do these things. And like I said, at the retreat, we just spent time talking about what would be the day if we end up inheriting that $120,000, which is likely to happen because, as Mr. Truill said, the ridership.
I agree with, Commissioner Shell. I think that, you know, instead of having $133,000 that's going for one route from Thomasville to High Point, that you put that in our transportation program and see what Richard can do with it, 'cause, I mean,
Well, you can't take it all anyway. There's upkeep on the park and ride lots. Across the street here, in front of the maintenance, the election board and
Yeah.
all, that's a park and ride lot. They the ones that pay that lot there. That is a park and ride lot.
But my concern is that if you go over and watch those buses when they were coming in, there's nobody on them.
True, that's right, that's why it stopped.
It's still taxpayer dollars out here, and it's our position, our responsibility that once those taxes are received, we have to designate where the most appropriate place and most efficient place for those monies to land is. And if part is not serving the citizens of this county, and our transportation department has to increase their routes to pick up any slack or any needs of this community,
Great.
that would need to at least examine whether or not would it be better off to designate those rental tax dollars to our own transportation system. I don't know the answer to that without looking into it.
Yeah, and I think if we can if you don't mind, we can bring it back at a kind of a work session there, because again, the retreat, we basically skipped ahead of the notion that we kind of looked at it as more it's inevitable. We're going to be probably having to take over some of these funds to deal with that. But now what options we have, it's up to us. I mean, if we want to fund another route to Egger, that's an option. If we want to put it in funding our existing routes, that appears to me to be an option. But what I would respectfully ask is, can we put this on a work session in the future?
As long as it can be done. As long as that can be done, I'm fine with that.
I think at some point in time, like I said, Scott came and met with us. It was probably last early winter. And I think that was the meeting to kind of set the stage for, we're going to try this one more time.
Because I think Commissioner Truill makes good points on something that I'm really not up to speed on. And so I have to depend on, he's on that board.
I understand.
But it just seems like to me that there might be a better way, or maybe we're doing what we should be doing.
No, I think we're ahead of you a little bit on the sense
I think we need to be able to take a look at it.
We've already thought through that day's coming.
And I'd like to have some information from legal on exactly what if there was a sunset period or the time that was agreed upon the county, because the county put a lot of work into that parking lot too. And I know the majority of the money that was spent on that was part of a grant, part put some money up to that, but I'm not sure exactly what the time frames were on that and the amount of money on both parties, but I would like that laid out for us too, so we have a clear picture.
Well, that's another piece of the work session thing is, can we get to the bottom of it? 'Cause I'll need to go out and dig it out myself. What were the parameters of the vehicle tax? What were the rules? The who, what, when, where, and why we gave it to them, and what did we designate it to be done with?
Yeah.
If it's open, then, as we kind of presumed with the retreat, then again, it's probably going to fall back to us one of these days. If they can't build the ridership and the 120, it costs them more to do the route than that. I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm not part of I don't see their financials. So then they're probably just going to say, here you go, you do what you need to do. And if that's the case, we got to have a plan for what are we going to do? Try to build our own different type of route, knowing that there's been some struggles with the marketing of that, et cetera, or enhance our existing routes, as Mr. Shell's kind of alluding to, and that's a possibility as well.
What Steve's saying is true, I mean, and I understand it, but what I'm saying is the monies, we don't control that tax money. That tax, they went and got legislation in Raleigh. We gave them permission to get legislation to tax the rental properties, cars. And all we could do is withdraw our permission maybe, or something like that. But, I mean, we can't say, hey, this $120,000 is ours then we've got to tax the rental properties, or the rental cars. So and I agree with you. I'm looking at this thing, and I've been looking at it, a little bit. I don't like the idea of one route just starting in High Point and Lexington, Thomasville going to High Point, because we're sending to pick up at least two riders, we're sending a bus to High Point to pick them up to bring them here. And, so PART's not helping us on that. But I think there's some way we could get that money, and I think PART would probably say, hey, y'all take this money.
Cost them more to operate.
Yeah, because the last I looked, and I hadn't looked lately, it was cost us something like $80 or $88 per rider. Each time they got on the bus, it cost us $88 to ride them to wherever they're going.
It'd be cheaper for us to Uber.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they tried the 52 route. I understand that. If I lived up there on 52, you're on the Forsyth County line, I wouldn't ride the bus either.
Mm-mm.
So they don't have any ridership that way.
And that was the exact issues.
That's right.
That getting them, and the wait times, I think, I've heard that before.
But I think one thing that they're looking at, and you've alluded to it also, they're hoping that they can put a route back on when Eggers comes on. That if Eggers gives them enough ridership that they could run a route down to Eggers, but now they just it doesn't work.
Mr. Shep, it's okay. This is a great work session topic.
But one reason, that's right, and the one reason it's like that is we caused it ourselves, because we put a transportation system in, and we took the ridership.
It takes the ridership, right?
Yeah.
Right. Doing such a good job for our own stuff,
Right.
it kind of
Well, anytime it's free, it's better.
Right.
So that's it.
Madam Chairwoman, I see that both of our rescue squads came out here, this morning. Is it okay if we hear from them for, real quick, since they came down here? Did y'all wanna speak, Danny and Scott? Well, I mean, you're getting the same amount of money, and we're not doing any budget increases or anything. I just wanted to make sure y'all didn't have something that we needed to be aware of.
There's really no need for us to take over.
Okay, good. I seen y'all here. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't do something and y'all come up later and say, hey, I was here to talk, so. Okay, all right, very good. Yeah.
Appreciate all y'all do.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Scott. Danny,
I only have one
Mo.
other question, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Casey, my understanding on the employee pay raise, that's on suspension. That has
Right.
not been removed from the budget.
Well, it's removed, but
Until we find,
we can always come
it's
back.
something we could bring back if the revenue generates
Correct.
above what we hope for. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
We
I'm
just
staring-
need to-
I'm
we
staring
need
at
to
a-
find out where our resources are gonna be in a few months.
Correct. I'm staring at Moody's now has put out a, COVID recession is over, after only 3 million jobs lost instead of their projected 9. I'm not saying that as good news. I'm saying as possibility that the economic impact is not what was projected. That is an entire possibility. So we'll see. We're going to see the sales tax numbers for March here in a few weeks, specifically for Davidson County. I know what it is for the state, but that don't really help me here. For the state, it wasn't as projected, so we'll see how it is here. And again, remember, March was about half the month. It kind of started about halfway. In July, we'll see April. In August, we'll see May. So as we get into the fall, into that early winter, we will see the whole picture of what happened, and possibly, did it ever go away, or has it stayed here, or is it coming back, or et cetera. So I anticipate we'll be back before you sometime soon, maybe not this summer, but fall, with some changes to the budget. Possibly for the schools. Remember, there's 3 big areas we're always watching. Employees, the schools, because we held the per pupil amounts to flat, minus the little bit we did off CRF here. And then capital for the sheriff's office and ambulances. Those are the 3 target areas that we need to remember going back into the fall. So. With y'all's permission, we'll just have this moved to Tuesday night. I'll just move this on to consent agenda if that's the consensus. I don't need any action this morning. I'm just gonna move to consent with these changes here included.
That doesn't require motion or
No.
anything, okay?
I think common consent's okay with it, unless
Yeah.
attorney
Consensus.
thinks
Okay.
otherwise.
Good.
All right, anything else to bring before the board?
Adjournment. Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, I have a motion, a second.
Second. Third, fourth, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.